In the vast darkness of space, stories traveled faster than light, tales whispered across star systems, shared in hushed tones by traders, explorers, and drifters. Among these stories, one stood out, a warning that echoed from the cold halls of the Zenthari Trade Council to the shadowed corridors of pirate outposts. Never touch a human. No one knew exactly where the story had begun. Maybe it started with the Kreen, a proud warrior species that had tried to conquer Earth decades ago. Their invasion fleet had arrived with confidence, armed with advanced plasma weapons and ships that could crush mountains. The humans had welcomed them with open arms, an odd reaction that confused the Kreen commanders. The humans, with their fragile-looking bodies and seemingly primitive appearance, appeared weak compared to the mighty Kreen. But appearances were deceiving. On the third day of diplomatic talks, a Kreen general, out of curiosity or arrogance, reached out and touched a human diplomat during a meeting. That was the last mistake the Kreen ever made. What followed was not a war, it was annihilation. Entire fleets vanished within days. Humans didn't retaliate with weapons. They fought with something far worse. Raw, terrifying force of will, strategy so precise it felt like they could read the enemy's thoughts, and technology that bent the very fabric of reality. The Kreen Empire ceased to exist within a week, leaving only silence in their wake. Since then, the warning had spread across galaxies. Never touch a human. Captain Vekril of the Tharn Dominion had heard the stories, but he didn't believe them. He was a practical being, tall, with slick, obsidian skin and four cold, calculating eyes. He led his crew with ruthless efficiency and prided himself on logical thinking. To him, myths were for fools and cowards. Humans are weak. Vekril sneered as his ship, the Obsidian Claw, approached the human trade vessel Starlight Venture. They thrive on fear, not strength. The humans had entered Tharn-controlled space without permission, a direct insult in Vekril's eyes. This was his chance to prove that the ancient warnings were nothing but exaggerated legends spread by superstitious fools. The Obsidian Claw intercepted the human ship with ease. Magnetic clamps locked onto the vessel's hull, disabling any escape attempt. The boarding party, clad in black armor with energy rifles ready, stormed through the airlock. The corridors of the Starlight Venture were quiet, eerily so. There was no resistance. The human crew stood still, their faces calm, offering no challenge. Vekril marched through the ship's metallic halls with authority, his footsteps echoing ominously. His guards followed close behind, weapons ready. He felt invincible. And then he saw her, the human captain. She stood alone on the bridge, a small woman with short dark hair and sharp, steady eyes. She wore a simple uniform, her hands clasped behind her back. No fear showed on her face, just a calm acceptance that irritated Vekril. "You dare trespass?" Vekril growled, stepping closer. "You should be terrified." The human captain looked directly at him, unblinking. "We're here to trade, not fight. There's no need for violence." Vekril let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You humans hide behind words and diplomacy because you lack true power." Without thinking, driven by arrogance and the need to assert dominance, Vekril reached out and placed one of his clawed hands on her shoulder. A show of power, a reminder that she was at his mercy. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The change was immediate. The human captain's eyes locked onto Vekril's, and something ancient and powerful stirred in that gaze. Not anger, not fear, pity. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly, her voice calm, but edged with something deeper, an unsettling certainty. Suddenly, alarms blared through the Obsidian Claw. Systems began shutting down one by one. Power grids overloaded. Every screen on the ship flashed red with a single chilling message: "Touching a human was your first mistake." Vekril's heart pounded as a crushing weight filled the air, like the unbearable gravity of a collapsing star pressing down on his very soul. His guards, once symbols of Tharn's strength, dropped their weapons and collapsed to their knees, trembling. The human captain remained perfectly still. She didn't need to move. "You think strength is measured by weapons and size," she said softly, her voice now echoing directly in Vekril's mind like a thunderclap. You don't understand what humanity is capable of. The ship's lights flickered violently. The temperature plummeted, frost forming along the walls. The air grew thick with dread as Vekril's thoughts spiraled out of control, overwhelmed by terrifying images flooding his mind, visions of human wars, entire empires dismantled by strategy alone, battles lost before they even began. Each thought struck him like a blade of ice. We are not the strongest because of our muscles or our ships, the human captain continued, her voice carrying an undeniable weight of truth. We survive, we adapt, we win. The obsidian claw began to break apart from within, its engines burned out, its systems corrupted, its very structure collapsing like it had been infected by a disease far beyond the understanding of the Tharn. This wasn't destruction by brute force. It was precision, strategy, and intelligence that bordered on terrifying. Vekril fell to his knees, clutching his head in agony, his pride, his certainty. All of it shattered in an instant. "Mercy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The human captain leaned closer, her eyes like twin voids that reflected his own insignificance. "Next time, remember, never touch a human." And then, everything went dark. Weeks later, the story spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The mighty Tharn Dominion had suffered an unexplainable and devastating loss. The Obsidian Claw, one of their most feared warships, had vanished without a trace. No survivors, no battle records, no distress signals, just silence. Whispers of what had happened drifted from one star system to another, growing darker with each retelling. In spaceports, smugglers' bars, and military stations, the legend took on new life. Captains and admirals listened in fearful silence as the warning echoed louder than ever before. Never touch a human. The lesson was clear. It wasn't humanity's size, technology, or weapons that made them dangerous. It was their willpower, their relentless adaptability, and the terrifying precision of their strategy. Those who underestimated humans didn't get second chances. And in the endless expanse of space, fear was sometimes the only protection. Never touch a human.